Hey, how's everybody doing today? So I feel like life is meant to be lived to the fullest, and I'm practicing it by living it and sharing it with the world because you can only teach somebody so much with words. And most humans nowadays in this short attention span of a world needs to see with their two eyes. What somebody else is doing when they watch TV and they get inspired by it. I'll admit I've been inspired by YouTubers and buying this camera. I spent almost $2,000 on this camera from one YouTuber. Shout out to Marcus Picks. So I've been kind of down a little bit, but I realize how quick you can sink in and stay there for a long time. And a lot of my friends I know personally struggle with this. So for me, being a positive person, a lot of times they get surprised when I say I'm not feeling well. But the difference with me is I sit with my feelings and I get very intense inside of it. And I come out reborn and rebirth. It's like I died and came back alive. I'm alive. I'm lively. You know, we in live right now. But what I also do is I surge an energy inside of me, and I realized that as I got older, you can kind of like have this comforting feeling of not being at your best. And I'm not talking about bypassing. I'm not talking about ignoring the issue. I'm talking about really coming back from it and applying what you've learned instead of going back 2 steps and then coming back 1 more step. At step 3, this is where you're at. I'm trying to elevate and expand my consciousness and my heart. And to live from the heart is not easy. I have to say things that I don't want to say, but I know I have to. When somebody gives me a hard time and when somebody, insults me because my kindness is being taken for weakness, it's a different story now. Because in the back of my mind, I don't think that I'm living my life to the fullest if I walk away with my head down and not dealing with conflict and the situation at hand. Now, there's some people that are not worth it to me. There's some people that are violent. I don't deal with that. It can get ugly real quickly. I fought a bully once, and he never messed with me again, but he came back around, except it was just a lesson, But all his friends that was laughing at me are now looking at him, and they're laughing nervously. True story. But I just want to help the people that are more passive aggressive, that are very kind and hard. You're not doing yourself a favor. If you're not dealing with the situation, at least when you're by yourself on your own, walking away from the situation. When you go home and lay in bed at night, and you're not happy, you may attract it again with a different person. And at that point, you have to understand that this is where things become fun. I no longer look at conflict and drama as a bad thing. I look at it like it's a good thing when it's like verbal. And I use that activation and trigger to apply my skills and apply what I think needs to be said to the person to help them become a better person instead of just cussing them out, which is the easy way out, I feel, which doesn't really solve anything. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to change things to everybody. Everybody's different. But I think that later on in life, it may hit them. I've had a lot of people message me that left my life and did me wrong, come back around and apologize. So I don't think that it's impossible for me to accept that those type of things can happen. I just don't attach myself to the outcome. I feel free to be me without being needy, without expectations. I just think that that's what I did to help free my spirit, to be able to share this with the world openly instead of keeping it to myself and thinking I'm doing the world a favor by not sharing something to at least one person in my life. Today I was hanging out with my boy, and it was an interesting situation because I realized that he was conditioned to think a negative way about something I was talking about, and just the topic, you know? Like, for example, if somebody has money, people tend to think if they come from poverty or they come from a bad place, or they were conditioned to think that money's a bad thing. He basically just jumped the gun to say that people were just flexing and all that. But I said to him, well, I know people personally that have money and that are good people. And that's why I spend time with them. And if they weren't good people, I wouldn't waste my time. And so I started to like do certain specific things. Like I called the pizza place and I hang up the phone and my boy says, I don't like olives and mushrooms. It's a very simple thing. It's a real life situation. So he goes on to say that, and I proceeded to call back. I hesitated to call back because I was thinking it was too late, but it was just like 20 seconds in, right after I hung up the phone. And what ended up happening was the guy said, okay, cool. And next thing you know, we go there with like a half and half. You know, that was my thought. Half Supreme, half none of this. It was so simple. And I told him, bro, what I'm doing right now is I'm living a life that I'm not used to doing because I'm used to being okay with the fact that I got the wrong food and not making a big deal about it because I fear being too much, you know, fear. And like really to simplify it, it was almost as if like I realized that I feared having more, having what I deserve and going out for what I want in life. And I looked at my father and I realized that he was this way. And I never understood completely with families and conditionings because I always believed that people are their own person and that just because you come from a bad place doesn't mean you can be a bad person. But I understand to a degree, I just didn't understand completely, as I mentioned. And this was one of those things that I was coming to realize about the subconscious mind and how I carry things that I don't always understand where it comes from. But in fact, I sometimes just forget. There's a lot of things that I was inspired by people I no longer talk to anymore. And the bad people in my life that left actually inspired me to do some things that I still carry with me to this day. Like my boy that loves Cadillacs. I never cared about Cadillacs. He loved it and it inspired me to want to buy it. You know, I had a falling out with somebody who loved vinyl record players and it inspired me to buy one. To this day, I still want to listen to vinyl records, music from there. You know, we get inspired by a lot of things, our surroundings, without realizing it. And I think that sometimes with lack of self-awareness, you can forget certain things or you don't realize what you do and don't do. And I think self-awareness is the key to peace and salvation for me. Because I know who I am and what my intentions are. I don't care if it's going to be taken the wrong way. I care that I don't do something when I think that I should have. And once I do days become months, months turn to years, and I still look back 1 year ago and I compacted so much leading up to this moment. And I don't want people to use their time loosely and one day it'll be August the 26th of this summer. And you can forget it's June. So I hope everybody has a great day.